The good news is we got it jacked up and we cleaned it up a bit so we can see what we're dealing with. Bad news is this thing's got rust, the frame shot out, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. It's definitely got trouble. We just don't know if it's cost effective to do anything with it at this point. I do have a couple dollars hanging around that I put in it, some stuff I bought for it already, but I guess it is what it is. Have a look. Oh man, yep, looking pretty bad, huh? Well, the Chinese frames have a tendency of doing that kind of stuff. I would imagine most of them do anyway. Steel left out in the pasture, in the grass, on the farm, wherever. Sitting water, you know the drill. I figured I'll try to come up with some kind of a cost-effective solution for it. It's temporary, and then we can go ahead and try to get it going and see if we even like this thing. If we do like it and it's got potential, I don't mind throwing money in it, and I don't mind putting the work in it, because they're just expensive. Everything's expensive. Even the cheap crap's expensive these days. So I don't know, we'll see. All right, we're doing a little bit of an air test on the tires to see if they hold. I managed to shove something in the hole there, and it's actually holding air. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous, but it works. Well, the trick here is to be cost effective. I don't know how much money I should put into this thing and whether or not I'm going to keep it, whether or not this is a good project or a bad project. I don't know. I know it's kind of cool, and I know it's kind of unique, and I also know everything, like I said before, is pretty expensive. So we're just going to take it one step at a time and try to do everything as cheap as possible to get it going. And then, of course, at that point, if it's a winner, well, then we'll just keep throwing money in it as we use it, you know, pay as you go type deal. Much rather do that than be making monthly payments on something or getting into that nonsense. I don't want to commit to owing anybody anything. So we did manage to get the tires aired up. Now, 2 out of the 4 tires, I got those little metal rods that I shoved in the hole that ironically are holding air. I'm just going to let them sit here overnight, and we'll go ahead and see what they do. Now, that's far from the issues that we have to address with this. The bigger issue is we're having some rust trouble, and I knew that. Well, I kind of knew that after the fact, but I mean, it is what it is. I can't tell you that I'd stop doing a project if I knew that it had rust, or I possibly wouldn't have bought it if I knew that it had rust. I actually bought this thing like 3 years ago and just threw it out in the grass. So I mean, there's negligence on my end from doing that nonsense, and that obviously definitely contributes to the problem. So you definitely don't want to do that. Make sure it's on cement, keep the grass and all the crap from underneath it. I didn't do that, and now unfortunately it probably went from bad to worse. So if you look here, this is an access panel just underneath the steering column, and obviously you see there's another 2 batteries in there. Clearly they're not supposed to sit that way. Those batteries are sitting that way because if you look, the whole damn cross member rusted out. So all underneath it rusted out. Let me show you. This is what we're dealing with underneath. So I don't know. We're gonna give it the hammer test. But before I give it the hammer test, I got to get these batteries out of there and try to position everything in place so that I can come up with a quick solution for this to get it going. Because, again, we want to get it going. Either way, even if I want to get rid of this thing, I got to at least make sure that I can be kind of intact and kind of functional so that the project shows potential to the next person, if in fact that's the route we're going to go. But honestly, I think I'm just going to wind up building this thing. So on with taking out the batteries and the rest of the equipment, and then we go from there, and then we'll give it a hammer test, and that ought to be fun. See how many holes we knock in the damn thing with a hammer. Well, I went ahead and tested the battery. I went ahead and tested the motor. I jumped the motor, connected to the 12 volts. We got nothing. It's not even going through. It's not even crossing. So there's something going on inside the motor. We're gonna have to yank that out. We're gonna have to check that out too. This thing might have been submerged. It flooded a couple times on my property, and this thing was sitting around. So the inside of that may look like total crap. I got to take it out, take it apart, and we got to go from there. Well, that don't look good. And here we are again. Went ahead and had to beat this thing down to get it apart. Had to fight it to get it out of there. You have a looky look. See that? Came out all right, but the weight is definitely there. I think smashed my finger real good. Couldn't believe how bad that thing smashed my finger. I didn't think that was a big deal, but it was. Anyway, got it all apart, and I guess I got to the bottom of why this thing's inoperable. And it was basically all rusted up, as you saw when I took it out. And we went ahead and wire brushed it and sanded it to get all this finish off. I got to do a little more work in here. Down here, this is all weather welded and locked up. Now, the biggest problem with this was the fact that we've had a couple of floods over here on the property, and it just sat in the water. Sat in the water, unfortunately. Again, I should have pulled it out, and I didn't. So this is probably part of my fault, but it may have just been locked up when I bought it. I don't know, but either way, we're trying to save it and be as cost effective as possible, because again, we don't know if this turd's even worth it. So I don't want to spend a bunch of money and a bunch of time in it before I know if it's good. So we went ahead and got this opened up, and the brushes, they're all locked up. They're not moving. I went ahead and I flipped all the springs out, and I tried to pull out the brushes. This one's moving a little bit. One of them I think I got out already. This one, the rest of them are just kind of locked up and they're nasty. Very difficult to get this cap off of this rotor thing here. So I had to beat it real good with this hammer we got. That worked out pretty good, but nonetheless, I think I'm just going to order some new brushes. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to soak this and hopefully loosen the whole thing up, because I thought about getting another plate, but the plate's actually not in bad shape. What's in bad shape are the screws here, and the fight it's going to take to get them undone. They're breaking, the heads are crap. I can't really do much with them, so I'm going to go ahead and soak them out with this PB Blaster stuff here, and we'll be all right. Get back to you as soon as we're done there. Well, I was going to save it, but you can see that I busted one of the things off. Busted off one of the brush sleeves, and I thought to myself, well, maybe we could fix that and put that back on. And then you look at the back side here, and there's no way of attaching it from behind. So, you know, to put something together like that and then have the concern that the thing's going to fall apart the minute you put it back in. And again, I hate to start dumping money into this motor if I don't even know if it's going to work, but I don't think I got much of a choice. The other problem I notice is if you look inside the sleeves, they're all porous. They're chewed up and they're porous on the inside. They got to be able to slide smooth, and has to have an even amount of tension on the brushes onto the big turbine rotor thingy over here. So I'm gonna replace the whole damn thing. Is probably what's gonna have to happen, because again, I don't want to have a bunch of time in it, and if it does work, which I don't know, I guess it should work. I mean, looks all right to me. Again, this is the first motor I've ever messed with. I don't know nothing about these, but we're gonna have to order some parts. We'll see how that goes. All right. I don't know. Changed my mind. So we saved it. I smacked that one in with a hammer. I'm going to clean it up. One less part to buy. All right, so we cleaned up the brushes, cleaned up the rotor, cleaned up the case. I need to order new brushes because they're kind of beat up, and I kind of smacked them up when I was taking them out. And I went to test it. I went to test it sideways and strapped it down, and it made a bunch of weird grinding noises. I went to test it up and down, and it's still making some noise. And then I came to the harsh reality after watching a couple of other videos that it's got to be installed. It's got to be mounted. So it needs support. That armature needs support on both sides, or else it's going to wobble. It's going to be heavy on one side, it's going to wobble, and it's going to hit the sides in there inside the case, and you're not going to know what's going on. So I'm not thrilled with the results of me connecting this 12-volt battery to it, but at least it's working. It is working, it is rotating, it is doing what it needs to do. Doesn't sound all that great, but my suspicion is that, again, it's grinding up a little bit on the sidewalls because it doesn't have any support on the other side. So here's what we did. And I guess you could say so far so good. I don't have any new brushes yet. That's been another circus trying to find brushes for this. I looked for a couple hours last night off and on. I couldn't find them because this is some kind of strange it's It's a motor I don't think that's sold here. So it's under KDS, but I think it's actually an AMD motor, which is a pretty common motor. But again, I haven't been able to locate the brushes and the measurements to make sure that I'm ordering the right one. And so I don't want to get hit with a restocking fee and return freight and this, that, the other thing, because I don't know what was what. So I got to do a little more research on that, because those brushes are definitely, they don't appear to be on eBay, they don't appear to be on Amazon, so we can't do that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back together, and I'm just going to shove it in the cart, and we're going to test it again and see what we got. What a rig, huh? I don't care. Oh man, that's progress there. See that rigged up brush? Yeah, it's all garbage, but hey man, I'll take it, that's a win. She runs. On to the next phase.